very like you have a purpose, but it's nothing overly challenging. Like for me, that well, I guess like the oh my gosh, there's a guy who talks about this. He's like a big philosophic phil, philosoph
Philosophic?
philosophic guy. His name is Alan Watts, and he has like this really great talk where he's talking about how like meditation shouldn't ever feel like a chore. It should feel like something that you get to do. Like it should feel like something that you look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh,
so I
absolutely.
feel like if like maybe
Mm-hmm.
meditation in the form of like doing yoga or like sitting and doing headspace or something, like if that's not something that you want to do, then maybe like get a coloring book or like maybe find a game or like, you know, like something like that that gives you the same kind of like quietness, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I think you have to find what works for you, and at the end of the day, it is just about that quiet, like sense of just like I don't have to do anything right now. I can zone out on this one thing. I can set a timer, and I'm only in the present moment of doing this one thing. Whether it's just listening to your breathing,
Yeah,
or whether it's playing a
exactly.
video game. So I think you've kind of I think you found it. I think you found it for
It's
yourself.
Stardew for me. That's how I become present with where I am. Well, and I'm honestly like I think it's really cool that this talk kind of moved to philosophy because I think it's a really great segue into bringing on our guest because if you liked any of what we were talking about right now, you are going to love him. So let's go to our interview with Miguel.
Cue the applause.
It's been a while. So what do I owe this surprise?
Your father's in very bad shape. Howard, no! You need to come right away.
I wish I could, but I'm really tied up with work here.
Bullshit, Richard. I know you're in New York right now.
You know what? Change of plan. Head towards Westchester.
He's your father.
You never cared about Mom. Or me. And now that I have a daughter, you don't care about her either.
You sound busy.
I'm in New York.
Dad, my play is tonight. You promised you would be here.
Go!
I was trying to protect you.
From what? You bastard!
From me.
Hey everybody, so we're here with Miguel Garzon Martinez, an amazing writer and director. He is of Long Commute and Parousia fame. All right, so I would actually really love to start off the conversation about a film that we actually worked on together, The Long Commute. And just so our listeners know, it's a really, really beautiful and heartbreaking reminder about just the idea of we only have so much time with our loved ones here on this earth. And so you don't really want to let petty things get in the way of your connections with everybody. So, Miguel, do you want to share some about The Long Commute?
Yeah, thank you for that introduction. So, this is a film that we developed with a good friend who is an actor, Anthony Grasso. And Anthony and I met at a film festival in Buffalo, New York. What happened is that he had a short film in the festival, and so did I, and we were both sharing one actress in the film. Her name is Lydia Fiore, and when we were making the arrangements to go, Lydia was trying to organize the rooms because, of course, the side that you don't hear about film festivals is that you have to most of the time pay for your own transportation and housing. So, in order to make it affordable, uh, Lydia asked me if I was okay sharing a room with Anthony. I had never met him, but I was like, sure. It's a little bit of a rhetorical question because we couldn't afford having individual rooms. Uh, and then we met, and it's a little weird to be like, I'm gonna be sharing the room with a guy, but Anthony.
To have this little sleepover with a guy that you've never met before.
What's the worst that could happen, you know?
Exactly, but Anthony, super sweet. We start talking about films and projects that we've done. He told me, I have to give him the credit because he was like, we need to do something together. So based on that, we start working. We came back to a city. We start having meetings and brainstorming. I believe we did about 17 different drafts of the screenplay. It took around 6 to 7 months just going back and forth writing.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, to be honest, we didn't really have a time frame. So we keep saying to each other, let's get it right. We don't have a deadline to film. So let's just keep writing and writing.
So I was just wondering, I love just this whole story of how you guys met and got on this project together, you and Anthony. What actually inspired the story, though? Like, how did you guys come up with the story?
Uh, a lot of the specific inspiration came also from Anthony because not that he's an older gentleman, but he's a little older than me.
Mm,
So he's in a different stage of his life. He's married, he has a child
of
who's like
course.
a teenager now. Um, and also because of that difference, both Anthony's parents passed away, which by contrast, my parents, luckily, are still around. But Anthony had a lot of stories, a lot of images, a lot of moments that he wanted to capture in his memory. And basically, what he kept telling me is it's crazy when you have this reversal in the roles when your parents grow old and you have to take care of them. And he told me he would remember, for example, with his mother who got pretty sick and he had to cut her nails and he had to like uh, comb her hair and do all the things that the image is like what a parent would do for a child. But then he found himself doing that in return. And
Wow.
we thought that was very powerful, very relatable. So we wanted to capture a lot of those images in the film. Uh, Now I came with my director perspective to be like, well, that's nice, but we need like a big conflict, right?
Of
We need
course.
something going on. So we decided to try to amp uh, a little bit the idea that the father and the son don't get along. We thought it would be interesting to explore how does that image look like, but with the fact that they don't get along, they haven't seen each other in a while, which adds a little bit the layer that Megan you were mentioning before. We are hoping to leave audiences with the idea that if you have a beef with someone, especially with your parents, you should be proactive and forgive and get over that because the time we have is limited and we don't know how long that time is going to be.
Yeah, no, I well, and I really love that you're talking about finding your way in as the director and everything, especially because I mean, you are kind of telling somebody else's story that they're handing to you. How did you go about finding your own way into this to tell this story?
That is a great question because lately I have found myself more and more in that position that when I am making a short film, it's not necessarily my story, but it's someone else's. With the case of Anthony, is the story of the relationship with his parents. And I am even right now, I am developing and writing a short film with a survivor of a sexual assault who is a woman.
Wow.
And I also ask myself constantly at it, like, well, I'm a guy, so how can I write this but be truthful to the experience? And I think it's a mixture of listening and being very open to have someone else, in this case Anthony, telling you the story from their point of view, how it happened, how they experience things. But also it's a balancing act with certain knowledge that I have. Making films sometimes can be very technical, and you start to get trained to look at certain things. So I'm always trying to accommodate those two aspects of this is what happened, but how is that serving the story that we are telling? And especially with things such as payoff and a setup. So if we are going to introduce certain scene or certain moment, I would like to have that properly set up, properly paid off. A good example, I think, with Anthony and the long commute is that his daughter actually plays a role in the film.
Mm-hmm.
And you
And
know,
she did a
originally
fantastic job.
she does a fantastic job. And originally, it was a little bit of like, oh, well, yeah, Anthony's daughter in real life acts and she wants to be involved. But for me, from the director's point of view, it's like she has to have an arc and she needs to serve the greater story. So what happens in the film is that you see his character is not perfect. And as a father, he also has some shortcomings. When he goes to take care of his dying father, he learns that time is very limited, so that changes his perspective, and he understands that maybe it was too late to fix the relationship with the father, but then he goes back to the daughter, hopefully being a better person and a better figure for her.
Yeah,
Um,
like I may have messed up here, but I can still take what I learned and I can apply it here. I think that that's a really really amazing answer, especially because I don't know, I feel like a lot of the conversations that artists have tend to center on the output about like the actual making things and coming up with ideas and things like that. And so I think that it's really really cool how you're talking about the biggest part of it a lot of the times is actually listening to the story and like understanding like this is the story that this person is trying to tell, and this is how I can take the part of me that's an artist and have it told in a way that other people are going to be able to relate to it as well. And I think that that's really, really cool, to approach it from that kind of a standpoint.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything Megan said, and I'm curious what that feels like for you as an artist to be kind of almost like getting, trying on someone else's perspective and really finding a way to bring your own ideas to it, obviously, but there also is a degree of pressure with some of these stories to kind of tell them in a specific way. So, can you talk about how that, just what that process feels like too?
Yeah. So as you say, it is a lot of pressure, and when you're writing to and in these situations, it's very common to have a lot of people giving you feedback. Uh, and I think there are a couple of things to consider. One is how to take some of the feedback, right? And so it is definitely a challenge how to remain true to a story, but also